Hello and welcome to the Deep Dive. I'm Hannah Mullaney, Client Solutions Director at Savile Assessment, and each episode I'll be joined by an industry expert to discuss the hottest topics in assessment today. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Deep Dive. We're talking about challenges in recruitment, and I'm delighted to be joined by Andrew Meechan, Head of Talent Acquisition at Third Space. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you for having me.
Andrew, we've been working together for a while now, and I guess been on a bit of a journey. I wonder if you could set the scene by painting a bit of a picture of what that's looked like for us.
Yep. So I've been at Third Space now for coming up to 6 years. I started as I was the second person in the HR team. The business was growing very quickly. We grew by acquisition, and I think our CEO and MD realised that if we're going to continue to grow, we really needed to centralise recruitment. So prior to me joining, it was a totally decentralised function. Responsibility for recruitment sat with the line manager. There was no real process and ways of doing things, and we've definitely been on a journey. I think fast forward now to today, we're now a people team of 14. We have a people director that sits within the executive team. I think we're front and center of everything that happens in the business.
Yeah.
We're a real people-centric organisation. And my role within talent acquisition really has to kind of bring it forward into the 21st century, which has been challenging but fun. We're by no means finished.
Yeah.
And the work that we've been doing with Savills is really kind of maturing how we assess people, structure our processes, and make sure we're getting the best out of our hiring managers and our candidates.
You talked there about the start of the journey with recruitment devolved to line managers or being sat with line managers. What were some of the challenges with that? What was the impact of that?
I think more broadly speaking, in the world of recruitment, everybody thinks that they know how to do your job better than you.
Yes, definitely.
So I won't talk about my individual experience. I think it's in every corner of every business.
Yeah.
The biggest challenge in recruitment is we are experts at what we do.
Yes.
And our job is to make sure that best practice exists everywhere.
So fast forwarding to then maybe today, what does that look like? How has the landscape changed? Where are recruiters really adding value?
Yeah, I think again, talking about my individual experience, I'm really proud of the journey that me, my team, and the business have been on. 6 years later, I've got a team of there are 4 of us. I've got 3 talent acquisition partners that really do partner with all of their hiring managers to make sure that we are doing the best recruitment processes that we possibly can. That's still without challenge. Or with challenge, should I say? But it very much is a partnership approach. I think our leaders in the business really do value the fact that they have that dedicated function who are there to make sure that we are acquiring great talent and doing something with them when they get there.
And what are the challenges
In the world of recruitment? I think post-COVID, I hate saying post-COVID.
I know.
The world is a very, very different place.
Yeah.
The market right now, I think we are in a candidate heavy market, and some of our challenges are really being clear around what for us what good looks like, and not accepting mediocre, really raising the bar in terms of the profile of the people that we look for.
What does that look like? Like raising the bar? How do you do that?
I often talk about Amazon as an organization and the way that they recruit. They have a dedicated bar raiser in their recruitment processes, and I really like it. That's an individual that sits within the business that's not connected to the role that's being recruited, and ultimately they have the final say as to whether or not an individual gets hired. But that what they're really looking for, or the questions that they're asking themselves, is this person better than the previous person that was in the role, or is this person better than the individuals that we currently have in a similar role? And so it's constantly benchmarking around what you currently have in the organisation, and not being willing to accept somebody just because you need somebody in that role. I think in our organization, my CEO always says to me, I don't care how long it takes you to hire somebody. What's important is that we get the right person.
Oh, how refreshing.
Yeah.
I feel like that's rare.
I think it's rare.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. In talent acquisition, with KPIs and things that people measure their success with, time to hire is probably the most widely spoken about KPI. And I absolutely flat out refuse to have that be a measure of performance in my team or for our business. We have to think outside the box around, well, how can we have a KPI in terms of what my team are doing and delivering? But I think if I was to set a target for a reduction of time to hire, what we're doing there is encouraging the business to hire somebody just because they need to fill the role as quickly as possible.
Yes. And it becomes a bums on seats exercise, not a let's get the right person and the
absolutely.
best person.
And so you hire somebody who's wrong.
Yeah.
They leave within a relatively short space of time and we're back to square one, but time to hire always looks really short because we're always hiring people really quickly. So actually what we do is we pull our processes apart and, how can we really be clear with people around what the role is and what the role isn't? Make sure that we're hiring people that are motivated to deliver what we need to and setting them up for success from day one. As soon as that becomes a time to hire challenge, you'll cut corners and skip steps and hire somebody because you need to hire them as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And as I say, it just becomes that revolving door of we need another because we're never going to get it right.
And do you get pushback from the business on not having that as a KPI, or do they understand
I think
where
less,
you're coming
less
from?
and less. We have to be really clear with people around why our processes exist and what the value is for them and for us. That being said, we are an operational business. We're a members first organisation, and we need people to be enrolled in order for our members to have the service that they quite rightly expect. So I always have to be mindful around how that impacts the operation. That certainly doesn't mean that my team are sat there thinking, well, I can take as long as I want to hire a role. There has to be regular updates. There has to be a commitment to, within this time frame, we will have delivered X, Y, and Z. This is my role within that. Your role is whatever that may well be. I think the business understand what we do and why we do it. They appreciate that it's about getting the right person, and they're very aware about the impact of hiring the wrong person. But the operation still comes first, and so we still do need to act quickly.
Yeah. And what does some of that look like? Have you done education with your stakeholders around the impact of making the wrong hire, or is it something that they inherently understand?
I think as a business, we're really data driven and data led. I think a lot of people are surprised when they walk into an organisation like ours at actually how much we talk with factual information, and we're very open. I think we're very candid with leaders in the organisation, and that's everybody that has something a story that they need to tell. And so we will talk to them about attrition, and we'll talk to them about success stories, and also where we have our challenges, and respective clubs and departments that may have a challenge, but why is that? What can we do about it? And so I think when we then talent acquisition will step in and say, well, our responsibility is to design a process where we are giving people the reality of the role and giving them as many opportunities to opt out as possible. By the time we get to offer and that person accepts, we know that they are fully aware of what the role is, and therefore they are likely to stay in that role for longer.
That makes sense. Maybe stepping back a little bit from Third Space, obviously still drawing on that experience, but maybe I'm asking this question slightly more broadly. Thinking about talent acquisition teams and successful talent acquisition teams, what does good look like?
Good or great?
Great. Great challenge.
What does great look like?
What does great look like?
I think I think recruitment as an industry, if that's the word that we can use,
Yeah.
is probably is an industry that has a very negative perception. Go on LinkedIn now and have a look at your news feed, and somebody will be talking about a really bad recruitment experience that they've had or been ignored. Um,
Why do you think that is? Like, why the negative perception? Is it something that's always been there? Is it something that's got worse? Where does it
I,
come
I,
from?
I try and have a balanced view on it. I don't, I don't. When I read a disgruntled candidate talking about their experience, I have to try and put myself in their shoes.
Yeah.
And it's what do people expect? Quite rightly, they expect to be communicated with. They
Yeah.
expect to be informed. They expect to get feedback. They expect to get feedback at the point that it's told, or they're told they will have that feedback. And when they don't get it, it's very easy for people to go onto a platform like LinkedIn and scream about it and have a million people like it and back it up. That
Mhm.
being said, if you put yourself into a recruiter's shoes, recruiters are really busy, and it never stops.
Yeah.
My team, have various projects, really great, sexy projects that they get to work on throughout any calendar year, but recruitment always comes first, and therefore, things have to get parked, and we really have to prioritize where we're going to focus our attention, and so. So yeah, I think the negative perception exists because candidates don't get what they deserve. But I also think that everybody should just not just. I also think that everybody needs to put some perspective on it and
Yeah.
understand what other people are doing.
Yeah.
If we don't always get it right, we do make mistakes. We are human, not
Mhm.
robots.
Mhm.
So going back to your question around what does great look like, I I think externally, candidate experience is fundamentally the number one most important thing. I'm really fortunate that I work for a member, a private members organisation, and everything that we do is geared around our members' experience, and that works really nicely when we talk about candidate experience because they should receive the same level of service that a prospective member receives. So yeah, externally, great talent acquisition is really loving your candidates and making sure that you're doing the best possible job for them. When we talk about the best possible job, that might or will often be telling people information that they don't want to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody thinks that they're the most suitable person for the job, but
Of course.
actually, if you are confident to tell them that they're not and why as early in the process as possible, that might not land very well, but
Yeah.
actually it's the best thing to do.
Yeah.
It's a bit like dating.
Yeah.
I'm not interested. No one ever tells you that they're not interested. They just
They
ghost you,
just
which
ghost
apparently
you.
recruiters do as well. Um, so yeah, I think externally, but we have a duty of care to people more broadly who, might be going through a difficult time, or they might be nervous or trying to think of adjectives around people feeling nervous. And our job is to really make them feel like they're cared for
Yeah.
because I genuinely believe that they are.
Yeah.
Give them the reality about what they're about to go through, and make sure that they're fully informed and have a forum to be able to ask questions and a point of contact. I think internally, great talent acquisition is we can talk about the role of a business partner, but when you're partnering with somebody, really knowing the balance of when to support somebody, but also when to challenge somebody. I think a great recruiter or a great business partner is very comfortable saying no as
Yeah.
opposed to yes. And the
Yes.
easy thing for us to do is to say yes, but actually saying to somebody, no, I'm not going to do that for you because that's the easy way out. This is what I need you to do, and I'm going to coach you and I'm going to encourage you to do that yourself, has a far better return on investment than just saying yes and doing
Yeah.
it to tick a box.
And do you think recruiters are generally yes people?
Yeah, I think by nature of the industry
Yeah.
we are.
Yeah.
It is a demanding role. We are prolific people pleasers. If you think about your hiring manager, we absolutely want to please them and find them the best candidate. And then if you think about
Yeah.
the candidates in the process, we absolutely want to please them
Yeah.
because we're absolutely frightened to death of a negative LinkedIn review.
And is that where that people pleasing comes from, or it's probably multifaceted, and we could do a whole other podcast episode on this one topic. But in maybe one question, where does it come from, that people pleasing characteristic?
I did give that some thought, so come back to that one later. I don't have the answer off the top of my head.
So we've talked about what great looks like. What does not so great look like? What have you seen or heard of over the course of your career that has made you go, actually, that's probably not how to do it?
I think I'm often baffled when I'm speaking to people in the industry around how recruiters or business partners aren't really clear from the get go around what the expectations are. I think if you are looking to fill a role as quickly as possible without measuring time to hire, we really need to be clear about, well, what's the problem that we're trying to solve? What does that look like? I'm going to go out there and do that, and these are the key points that things are going to happen. So I think not great are things taking too long, a lack of communication for all parties that are concerned because no one is clear around when things should happen. And there's nothing more frustrating for me if I'm, running a recruitment process and I'm getting to final interview and I've just found out that the hiring manager's off on holiday for 3 weeks because I didn't anticipate that coming because I never asked the question in the first place.
Yeah.
Or there's nothing more frustrating for a hiring manager who finds out that I'm out of the business for 2 weeks because I'm off on my holiday and I never told them that that was happening. The communication has to be really clear from the outset. We need to be really clear about who needs to be involved, who needs to be engaged in this process, and at what point is that relevant. So yeah, I think cutting corners or missing steps out of the process actually results in that perception of recruiters being negative.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe just to pick up very specifically on something you talked about there around, almost everyone being on the same page in terms of like what you're looking for. I'd be really interested to hear from a practical perspective, what does that look like when it's done really well?
It's going to sound really bizarre, but I was having a conversation with a member of my team a few weeks ago about ordering a pizza.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can talk about recruitment as if you're ordering a pizza. So, a hiring manager has decided that they want to get a new pizza and they want a thin sliced 12-inch
Yeah.
pizza with a tomato base
Yeah.
and extra cheese, pepperoni, chili, some rogue, like a bit of pineapple on there.
Oh, wouldn't be my choice.
Yeah, nor mine. And they send their order through, and if you're ordering a pizza, you'll be told it'll be with you in 40 minutes, and it's going to look exactly as you've ordered. It's going to taste exactly like you want it to, and if it's not, then you can get a refund.
Yeah.
There are no refunds in recruitment. And I think, we're talking about getting on the same page there. It's really easy to order a pizza and it's really easy to look at those instructions, follow it to the nth degree, and the output is exactly what somebody is looking for. The reality in recruitment is that's never the case. You can write a job description and you can try and get a bit of rationale as to why you need something, but actually putting yourself into a future state of mind and what does success actually look like? What is the problem that we're trying to solve here? Because the problem doesn't always need to be a short-term fix. So I often send my team into their meetings and, it's really important that they can get the manager thinking about what success looks like when that person's been in the role for 3 months, when that person's been in the role for 12 months and actually being able to articulate that. And it's surprising often how many, it's surprising how often people haven't thought about that. They like being asked that question because it really challenges them to think differently about what they need and what they're looking for.
Yeah.
it also allows us as recruiters to have better conversations with candidates, because we're not talking about this is the job that I'm looking to hire and it's an immediate fix. We can talk more about, in 1 year's time, this is what you're going to be doing, and this is how you're going to be speaking, and these are the relationships that you will have had and the impact that you will have made. And we can't know that if a hiring manager
Mm-hmm.
hasn't thought about that and shared that with us.
Yeah. And I guess that then means that you're more likely to hire the right person, but also probably makes for a more engaging candidate experience, like that level of detail.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I was mapping out the process as well from start to finish. I was having a conversation with one of my team today, and we make little kind of like introduction packs for candidates. This is the role that we're looking to recruit. Here are some of the key team members that you're going to be
Yeah.
interacting with. The benefits and what it's like working here. And actually, what we're now going to do is start putting the process into those documents. How many stages are they? When are they likely to happen? Who are you going to be meeting? And what's going to happen? And
Mm-hmm.
several assessments and wave will absolutely be something that goes in there, because we need candidates to know that's what they're going to do,
Yes.
and give them the opportunity to ask us questions at the start, so that we
Yes.
can then guide them through that process.
Absolutely. And I think that point around communication is really key in terms of as much with candidates as with stakeholders in the business. And I was having a conversation earlier today with a couple of the team around sort of training and socialization and upskilling in assessments within organizations, within our clients' organizations. And actually, we felt that the one kind of stakeholder that was often missed out is the candidate. And actually, information around why you're doing these assessments,
Hmm.
what you'll need to do when doing them, what they look like, and then any feedback that they might get, how they should understand that. Like those are three really important things that recruiters
Yeah, I think
probably
from
always want to think about.
from my perspective, I shouldn't be surprised, but I'm really surprised that
Mm-hmm.
that more broadly speaking, the candidate gets overlooked,
Yeah.
because like they absolutely have to know that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if I'm asking somebody to go online and spend 40 minutes
Yes.
being free and forced ranked to answer questions, they need to
Yes.
understand why.
Yeah.
And we'll all have our own unique ways of explaining that,
Mm-hmm.
but there needs to be some explanation as to why that's happening. Expecting someone to then come to a structured competency based interview with no idea as to why we ask those type of questions and how to structure a response is just
Mm-hmm.
setting somebody up for failure. And I
Exactly.
think wherever
Exactly.
I would never put a candidate in front of a hiring manager and and expect them to fail, because that would be the worst outcome for
For
them and the worst
everybody.
outcome for me,
Yeah.
and yeah, for everybody.
Yeah.
We're always really clear with people that what we're doing with this process is we want you to be successful. You might not
Mhm.
be, but we want you to be,
Mhm.
and therefore we're going to give you as much information
Yeah.
as possible
Yeah.
in order for you to be.
Yeah.
However, it's always really gutting when you've got a candidate that then turns up and they let you down because they have
Yeah.
failed to prepare,
Yeah.
because
Yes.
you set that expectation with them from the start.
But that's beyond your control. You've done everything you can
Absolutely.
do. Thinking about the journey that you've been on over the last few years, moving from a place where everything was completely decentralized, bringing a lot more sort of structure and process and rigor and science into recruitment. And then, taking that even further, making sure your recruiters are really like partnering with line managers and, uh, where appropriate, challenging them, but asking really good questions and really getting everybody to clearly understand what the end game is. I'm sure there'll be many other people who listen to this podcast who will be somewhere on that journey. And I think people are always really interested to hear from other people who've done it, been there, got the t-shirt. Um, what would you say would be some of the biggest learnings for you, having gone through the process yourself?
Well, I mean, first of all, you've got to be up for a challenge,
Yeah.
and if you're not, then you should probably get off the train now. Quite frankly, I think you've really got to believe that the work that you're doing and the changes that you're making are a force for good. You know, but the things that we've implemented and our ways of working, that's not been easy,
Mm-hmm.
but nothing worth doing is ever easy, is it? So yeah, you know, be aware that there are going to be derailers, and
Yeah.
you know, it's not going to be easy. You might have to park some things, etc., etc. But um, it's all for the greater good, and you've got to be really clear around what that might look like. I also think, for me, I really have to think all very carefully around what I'm going to care about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could spend all of my time crying and moaning and saying that nothing's working and no one likes me and this is really hard, but actually, that's not going to get me anywhere. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, things aren't always going to go to plan. Someone's always going to do something that you least expect from them, and that is okay as long as you have a plan to stop that happening again in the future.
Mm-hmm. What were some of the kind of biggest challenges, kind of from a practical perspective, that you had to overcome, and how did you do that?
Yeah, I think it's introducing structured assessments, psychometric assessments, you know, a reason and a rationale as to why each stage of a process exists can be quite difficult for people, especially when you're working with people who are, you know, really experienced in their field. They've been doing this job for years. They've recruited for years and years. I know what I'm looking for. I know how to do
Yeah.
recruitment. Why are you making me ask this really
Yes.
rigid question and
Yeah.
probe? Um, but yeah, from a challenge perspective, that I've certainly been met with that challenge a number of times. Um,
And how have you dealt with that? Or what's been the most
I
effective?
think I'm okay with that because I'd rather know where someone's coming from and
Yeah.
be able to work on that than for them to hide it from me or make it
Yeah.
up. So yeah, you know, if somebody's uncomfortable with something that I'm asking them to do, I've missed something there, and therefore we need to go back to basics and start again. And
And what does that look like, going back to basics again from a practical perspective?
I think acknowledging that you're both at different
Yeah.
points, and yeah, not being prepared to accept that that's okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna sit down. We, you know, it could be anything, couldn't it? But I think, you know, you really need to look at leaders on a case by case basis, and you know, some people will absolutely embrace anything that you do and deliver, and I love it and it's great, and other people might not feel that way. And so yeah, you know, working with those people, understanding that there's probably more work to do, but agreeing, you know, or yeah, committing to working on that together is
Yeah.
where you're partnering.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Do you become a bit of an educator?
absolutely,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. I think that, and I think the world of recruitment is always changing, and we need to stay ahead of the game as well.
Yeah.
Because we need to be there before everybody else gets there. And our job sometimes is explaining something that's really unfamiliar to people.
Yeah.
That, you know, this is real and it's here and it exists, and this is what we're going to do about it, and this is what you need to do about it. And I know you're not okay with that, but we're here to work together and we'll get there.
And how does that intersect with the people pleaser piece that we talked about earlier? Does that make does the people pleaser element make that job of educator and sometimes challenger quite difficult for some people?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think if you're if you're a people pleaser, I'm a people pleaser, but not in this instance. If you're saying to somebody, right, these are one of the tools that we're using for this recruitment process. These are the reasons why, and they say, I don't want to. I want to do things my own way. The people pleaser will say, okay, tell me about that, and the hiring manager will say, I'm just going to ask a load of random questions because
And have a
that's
nice
what I'm good
coffee.
at. And if I was to then say, okay, we'll do it your way, I'm running a bad recruitment process.
Mm,
So yeah, the role of the role of the educator. Oh, if we think the role of a partner, is, you know, you can call yourself a business partner if you want, but you know, the partnership. If you think about your relationship with, or if I think about my relationship with my partner, you know, we care about each other, we support each other, we love each other, but sometimes we really dislike each other, and sometimes we're going to
Yeah.
fight and we're going to argue, but then
Yeah.
we're going to sit down, we're going to talk about it, and we're going to get to a place where there's a bit of common ground. We are going to educate each other. You know, we are going to have different points of view and different perspectives, but you know, we're in this together, and therefore you've got to get on an even page. And I think it is exactly the same partnership that you have with your stakeholders in a business.
Yeah. It's almost like don't be scared of the conflict, because you
Yeah,
entrust that you'll be able to work through it
yeah,
together. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes there is conflict, but fundamentally, everybody wants the same outcome.
Yes.
So let's cut the crap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's get that put to one side and have a plan to move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Andrew, could you close us out by giving your kind of top 3 pieces of advice to someone who's at the very beginning of this sort of order taker to business partner journey? So for a TA leader who's taking their team on that
So
journey.
I've got all these pizzas that I need to make,
Exactly.
and I don't want to do that. I want to love and care for somebody.
Exactly.
Yeah. So number 1, have a plan
Mm-hmm.
and stick to it.
Yeah.
Thinking about everybody that needs to be involved and everybody that needs to be influenced on the journey that you're about to go on. Accept that there will be derailers and it's not going to be easy, but have a plan around what you're going to do about those. And if you haven't got a plan, you need to have a network of people that have been through exactly the same as you have that you can reach out to and say, I don't have a plan anymore. Can somebody help me?
You know, your inbox is now going to be flooded with
Probably.
everyone asking for
And then
your
everyone will go on
plan.
LinkedIn and complain about me because I've not replied.
Andrew, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed today's episode of The Deep Dive. If you have, please remember to like and subscribe to stay tuned for all our latest content. If you want more information on any of the topics you've heard today, check out the show notes for case studies, resources, and articles. I've been Hannah Mullaney. See you next time on The Deep Dive.